Time to talk some soccer on the Nashville Soccer Show. Good evening, people of Nashville. My name is Will Bowling. That over there to my left is Davey Shepard. Lucas Panzica at the controls. Defeat in Miami, a Barcelona breakup for Lionel Messi, and a major guest coming next week and tomorrow, wherever you listen to podcasts, on the Nashville Soccer Show. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing good, man. But I told everybody all day we were just going to be breaking down the Williamson County School Board meeting in this episode.
That's not what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, is that it? Or
Dang.
That's what I had planned.
Lucas, how you doing, buddy?
All good, man. I guess I had to rewatch the game on Sunday, which was not fun because I was at the race on Sunday. While you guys were enjoying it at Fat Bottom, I hear a good time was had outside of the result for a good turnout. But so, yes, it was a painful rewatch because you know what's going to happen. You can feel the impending doom, but you got to plug along and watch it anyway.
That's right. Which let's start off the show before we get to our major guest announcement by thanking all of those that joined us at Fat Bottom on Sunday afternoon. It was a great time. Good to see a lot of people there with the club, fans that we had not yet gotten to interact with, met some new people, gave away a lot of tickets.
Yeah, tons of tickets.
A ton of tickets.
I mean, like 5 sets of match tickets, concert tickets. It was insane, man.
Basically, if you are not joining us at Fat Bottom Brewery, you're missing out on $3 Pitch Invasion lagers and a great time to hang out with us because we're a lot of fun. So just hanging out with us would be worth the price of admission on its own. But you're also missing out on a really good chance to win something because we gave away 10 total tickets to a big concert this weekend, Dan and Shay in Nashville, and to U.S.-Canada, which is the can't-miss soccer game that's going to break the record for the biggest soccer audience probably ever in Nashville and in Tennessee. So you are doing yourself a disservice by not joining us at Fat Bottom Brewery. So, gentlemen, let's start here before we get to a disastrous defeat that is far and away the worst in the club's short history in this season. We start with a major podcast that will come out tomorrow morning to middle of the day that you will be able to hear next week right here on the Nashville Soccer Show. The commissioner himself of Major League Soccer, Don Garber, live on the Nashville Soccer Show tomorrow via podcast tomorrow. Let's call it at 11 a.m. 11 a.m., Don Garber on the Nashville Soccer Show, on the Nashville Soccer Show, the Zone podcast feed, and on the Speedway Soccer podcast feed. Gentlemen, it's a big get for us, and we're looking forward to talking with Don Garber.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And, he was here today checking out the stadium, little spin there. You were there, Will? Ben Wright was there, we know for sure.
I was not there.
Yeah, you were not there. Okay, gotcha. I couldn't remember. So I think kind of a lot going on for the league as a whole. Would love the opportunity to kind of ask him about these new expansion rumors. I found the interview in The Athletic today that said that Messi's dad was in Las Vegas for meetings with Don Garber and the mayor of Las Vegas. Extremely interesting.
Huh.
And I doubt we get an answer on that one, but I'm definitely going to at least try. So
maybe in like 2029, 2030.
This is the equivalent of when we were at SEC Media Days with 3HL, and about an hour after the news broke that Texas and Oklahoma wanted to join the SEC, the first interview that Greg Sankey did was with 3HL. And it was the biggest non-answer I've ever seen in my life. But absolutely interesting storyline. Looking forward to talking with him, though. He got his first look at the new Nashville Soccer Stadium. Interested to get his thoughts on that and what makes Nashville unique. What makes that stadium unique and how Nashville has surprised him since entering the league a couple of years ago. I think that is an interesting storyline because, guys, we're fresh off this loss to Miami, and the last time Nashville played Miami in that playoff game, Alexi Lawless, of course, had that big, horrible statement saying that the MLS needs more teams like Miami instead of teams like Nashville. So my question for Don Garber tomorrow is going to be, look, Nashville has built its foundation with guys with lots of MLS experience. How happy are you to see a team like Nashville build its foundation with guys that have built their careers in MLS versus guys from other markets? That's the most interesting thing I want to hear him answer tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's going to put him in a bit of a tight spot because he's so intent on marketing the league to other countries and the players from other countries. And so I think that will be interesting because we've seen teams have success building a spine of MLS experienced players, and it does not seem to be the most attractive thing from the outside in. And when Lexi said that, yeah, I think everybody around Nashville was a little bit surprised by how clearly he said that pretty strong comment. And it'll be interesting to see how Garber takes that one.
It's going to be fun. Looking forward to that. Pay attention to your podcast feed tomorrow.
We'll tweet it out too. So.
Yeah, we'll tweet it out, of course. All right, gentlemen.
Do we have
to? We have to. No, all right. I've been looking forward to this show since the second the final whistle blew. Because, look, there's a lot of different ways that we can go out of this loss to Miami. But let's start with this. We left the studio at about 10, it was 9:55 last week and said, what is the standard for what this road trip should be? We said 5 points is good, not great. You'd take it. 6 points was the expectation. They got 2. So let's not just start with this was disaster in Miami. This was a disaster of a road trip for Nashville SC where if they continue to play like this on the road, forget hosting a playoff game, forget MLS Cup aspirations that Taylor Washington talked about a couple weeks ago, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you put it totally right. And I know people out there, it's easy to just look at the table and say, hey, look, we're in 5th right now. It's totally fine. If we would have won, if Nashville would have won, they would have been 2nd on the table in clear by themselves. But the problem is that they're not winning a lot of games that they should win. And so when the team isn't performing at the rate that it needs to, we've talked about this a lot, right? The margin for error with this club has shrunk and it shrunk and it shrunk and it shrunk because the schedule was so front-loaded and you played easier opponents on the front end. The reason why you need to beat Atlanta at home when they're so injured is because every now and then you're going to lose one on the road against a bad team instead of drawing one on the road against a bad team. And the other day was just exactly that. We were thinking, hey, God, this is going to be a really, really bad draw. Even if they pull out a winner, this is a really bad performance. We're going to have to ready to talk about that Tuesday. You have the Cadiz miss, which I think will be the miss of the season in the entire league. I haven't seen one worse so far. The CONCACAF. Oh no, that was like a Trinidad and Tobago game I'm thinking about where the keeper kind of played himself. But
yes,
it's
right.
second only to the Lebo Moloto miss, standing 2 yards away from goal with the keeper nowhere to be found.
That's USL.
USL,
right?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm sure somebody will find a way to.
But that's
to
the
botch
point,
one worse.
guys. This was an unexcusable miss in USL. This is an inexcusable miss by an academy guy, and Yonder Cadiz would be the first one to admit it.
Absolutely.
I'm not piling on
you can
here.
see it after how mad he was.
If
right.
there's a moment to ever pile onto, it's this one. This was inexcusable, and I'm convinced that Nashville doesn't give up a goal in stoppage time if they're merely defending a 2-1 lead versus still pressing for the game winner.
Absolutely.
It is the type of result, the type of performance that strengthens the argument that we push back against so much, right? About Nashville being a lock-it-down defensive team that just wants to grind out results. Going on the road, scoreless draws at Columbus and at New England, we can sit here and defend those results. This is kind of one of the first indefensible results. Well, I won't say that because there's been a few this season, but it's not sustainable to be on so far on each side of the spectrum, home versus away, throughout the entire season. You're probably not going to sustain that level of success at home, and something's got to give on the road. You have to find a way to put together good performances because it's not just the way these games are shaking out in the end. It feels like it's the approach to these games. And this is a near full-strength lineup going into Sunday's match against Miami. Yes, Jalil Anibaba starting the middle over Walker Zimmerman, who's still nursing an injury. Yes, it's Eric Miller at right wing back, but otherwise – your double pivot is fully intact. The front three that went on that electric run a couple of weeks ago, fully intact. And it just felt like Nashville never really went for it in a game where it was right there for the taking. And we've been talking about 2 games, 2 points against Atlanta, the worst pair of results of the season. Well, 2 games, 1 point against Miami now takes that cake.
I agree with you 100%. I actually think a 0-0 draw away to New England is a really, really good result.
Sure.
That's
fantastic.
the best team in the
Best
league.
team in
I
the
think
league.
that's great. I had them on 6 points with wins in Toronto and Miami. Nothing in New England. I got the road trip totally wrong. So, listen, they are in a tough spot. There's a lot of games left. And look, these next two at home aren't easy. DC United's playing pretty good soccer right now. Orlando's one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference.
And
So
it's Orlando with Daryl DK.
and there's no margin of error
There's none.
left. You've burned it up. And so
Yeah.
now is where like the rubber must beat the road. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think we have taken the line the entire time here that they're putting themselves in a tough spot. They're putting themselves in a tough spot. I think it has been viewed as being maybe a little critical of the team when things have seemed very, very well for periods of time. I
Worked
don't
out
think,
well for us.
yeah, I haven't been trying to be critical of the team, but I've been trying to say, look, you just let's not get into that position. And now we are in that position that we've been talking about all season.
And we talked about that early part of the season with early season draws at home against Cincinnati and against Montreal and against Atlanta. And we've talked about you're not allowing yourself much margin for error. You've got to find a way to get these 3 points at home. And to the club's credit, they started doing that. They found a type of form at home where it is night and day compared to on the road. The problem is that script hasn't really flipped on the road. And here's the issue. 7 road games, 5 draws, 2 losses. Only 2 of those games have come against teams that are currently in a playoff spot. That's scoreless draws against Columbus and New England. 2 of the bottom 3 teams in the East are included in that list, and one of which you just lost to in Miami. So, yeah, absolutely. The margin for error shrinks by the day. We had this conversation about the home results early in the year. That has kind of fixed itself a little bit. Not so much on the road.
Guys, this is a very tough league to play in on the road. I don't want that to go without being said.
Absolutely.
Because you look at MLS since 2015, 52% of the time the home team wins. 23% of the time the away team wins. 25% of the time there's a draw. You look at other games that went on in the league over the weekend. The team with the longest unbeaten streak now in MLS, with Nashville SC finally having theirs snapped, is San Jose Earthquakes, because they beat LAFC 2-1 in their home stadium in a California rivalry. Chicago Fire held off New York Red Bulls at home. The Chicago Fire team that looked like a USL team on the field against Nashville SC beat New York Red Bulls 2-1 and had 2 goals in the first 10 minutes to be that New York team that also doesn't look the same since they beat Nashville SC. So I don't want to go without at least giving Nashville a little bit of slack for the entire road trip because of the way teams play on the road historically in MLS, and specifically in the last 6 seasons since 2015. But that does not excuse Sunday. Because A, of how it happened, where you have a 6-yard box free header from your designated player striker that he doesn't score.
Well, it didn't have to be a header, mind you.
No, I know.
He had plenty of time to
was
do
not a
just about
defender.
anything he wanted to do.
And let's give credit, while we're being a little more positive, to Ake Loba
Absolutely.
for creating that chance.
Unbelievable
Ake
work
Loba
ethic.
will absolutely be in the starting 11 Sunday if I was a betting man. Absolutely. But you can use the MLS is tough to play on the road argument for the entire road trip. I'm fine with that. I don't necessarily agree with it for Toronto, but I can at least understand the argument. It's an invalid argument against Miami, because if there's one road game that you feel most confident about getting points out of, Miami's right there up there with all of them. So I think just as New England is a game where it's one of the only games of the year where you are perfectly fine with 1 point on the road, Miami is one of the only games a year where you should absolutely expect 3 points on the road. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, because no run of results will make this result better, right? No, nothing's going to make up for losing to the bottom team in the East. That's where it's tough. And not only that, and after such a good run of form where everything was positive, now you go into, 7-8 days is a bit of a long layoff when you're having 2-3 games a week in stretches. So now you go into this week with a bad taste in your mouth where you have to gear up for a home return against DC United. It's just not how you want it to go into the layoff.
So you mentioned it, Lucas. You said nothing's going to make up for a result against the team who's bottom in the East. And but here's the problem: is that Miami's not bottom in the East anymore. They're third off.
Right, they were going into
You've got
Sunday.
Cincinnati a point above, Miami a point above, and Chicago there. Atlanta right above Chicago. And that what I'm saying is with the exception of Chicago, Nashville has struggled to get results against all of these teams.
Literally.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
3 games they've played against Cincinnati, right?
And Atlanta's coming off a 3-2 win at Columbus, too.
No, they've played Cincinnati twice now. They
Yeah,
drew them once.
A win and a draw.
A win and a draw. They play them again. Miami, you've got a 0-0 draw at home, a loss away. Toronto, you get a win through Hawkinson by the grace of God.
It was almost a 2-1
Looking
loss.
back at that, it's almost a 2-1 loss, right?
Yeah.
And you drop points on. So what I'm saying is I think there's a road issue going on, but I've been saying this for going on a month now. There's a playing up and down to the level of your opponent issue that this team can't get past. Dax mentioned it in the broadcast against New England. Gary seemed to kind of hint at the same issue after a post game just on Sunday.
When we come back, we will hear what Gary Smith had to say about specifically his team at home and his team on the road. And guys, there's one specific stat that jumps out to me when you compare Nashville SC in Nissan Stadium and Nashville SC everywhere else. And Gary Smith tends to agree with me. I'll tell you what that stat is next as the Nashville Soccer Show rolls on 104.5 The Zone.
There's only one place to get Ron Slay.
Because what we about to do as the SEC is take over. I'm telling y'all, man, y'all better be on the lookout. It's Trash Talk Friday, and I'm talking. We're going to get up to the top. We got the best cut man in the corner, Josh Hyper. We're gonna be okay.
Brent Doherty, Dawn Davenport, and Ron Slay take you on a sleigh ride during your drive home. The 3HL, tomorrow, starting at 3 on 104.5 The Zone.
Show. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. The Nashville Soccer Show live with you on 104.5 The Zone. Let's go to the comments. The Life of A-Pal hanging out in the Twitch chat says, let's go to the Don Garber announcement. Yes, we're looking forward to that. If you missed it, Don Garber with us, podcast dropping at lunchtime tomorrow. Speedway Soccer, Nashville Soccer Show, and Zone Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Jay Mueller on Twitch chimes in. Jay Mueller, thanks for hanging out, saying, how does Yonder Cadiz keep playing over Luke or Rios, parentheses, when he's healthy? And then adds, Miller didn't cover himself in glory either, but he hadn't played poorly in his run of games until that point. Look, I mean, you're going to play your DP striker until he makes the kind of mistake like he made against Miami. I do think this changes the rotation of the forwards, though.
Is Daniel Rios healthy, regardless of if he's on the injury report or not?
Well, and we're continuing to see Ake Loba play as a number 9. I imagine you're going to see Ake Loba play a lot more number 9 instead of CJ Sapong Cadiz. I think you give Cadiz at least Sunday off to just kind of reset a little bit.
Reset the brain.
I think CJ Sapong finishes that late chance.
I think Daniel
Rios
finishes it.
I think most players in this team finished that.
It's a strong header by Sapong right out the gate in the second half. He's been good, solid in the air throughout the season. It's just something that you can't afford to have, the kind of miss you can't afford to have from your designated player. Which, by the way, I tweeted to Higuain for that first Miami goal.
It's a nice finish.
It's I guess that's what Miami fans have been waiting on, right?
We were talking about that Sunday. Davey and I were saying that Higuain doesn't really care about playing. But if you just give him the ball in the box without a lot to do, he's still going to finish.
The skill's there.
You don't forget how to finish like that. Gary Smith pointed to one specific thing, guys, on the difference between his team on the road and at home. And looking through some of the stories Ben Wright has written at BroadwaySportsMedia.com and analyzing some of the numbers of this team, home versus away, I'm coming to the same conclusion. Here's Gary Smith after the match Sunday afternoon, talking about this team's road form versus its away form or home form.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, as far as chance creation, and I think that always ends up being the fundamental in winning games or offering yourself a chance to. We can look at, if we just take the cross-section of this week, very little created in New England, and you might expect that. I actually felt as though there were some nice opportunities and we might have snatched the game in Toronto. If you remember, Hanny had I'm not sure as clear-cut a chance as Yonder's, but a very good chance, but not lots of clear-cut chances, and that's the big difference. At home, we look free-flowing, we look relaxed, there's a real confidence about our play, but away from home, we've looked uncertain, almost happy to allow teams to come and build some pressure. And most of that has come from, not being able to get in behind or beyond or secure the ball in good areas. There's a big difference. I need to take a little look at that and go back over the game. But it's tough to evaluate and maybe compartmentalize, because there are so many good things at home. What I don't understand, and I'm sure lots of coaches have been in this position as well, why we would be less enthusiastic about a similar style of play or thought process.
Gary Smith after the loss on Sunday. Enthusiastic is the word I want to highlight, gentlemen. Nashville SC is not showing enthusiasm by not getting the ball on the road. The possession stats alone are the difference between this team being so good at home and so bad away. They average 51% possession at home and 38% possession on the road. And to me, that was particularly evident against Toronto. When we talked about last week, this team only had 45% of the ball against a bad team that didn't really have any high-danger chances at all against Joe Willis in the final 45 minutes. Jay Mueller on Twitch says that possession is such a misleading stat, though. I don't think it was against Miami because you consistently saw this team hemmed into its own end, and what did they do? They didn't trust themselves to pass out of the back and relieve the pressure by playing out and passing it through the center backs and through Joe Willis and finding an outlet. They were just launching it long and giving up.
I agree that it is a misleading stat, but it is until it isn't.
Right.
And it isn't when you're getting bullied around the field by two teams at the bottom of the table.
That is a big, big difference. 51% to 38%.
Yeah.
Nashville SC has the aspirations of being a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference.
Here's not a misleading stat, and Ben Wright kind of cobbled these all together. 2021 home goals per game, 2.1667. 2021 away goals per game, 0.4286. Less than half a goal per game on the road and over 2 per game at home. That's not a very misleading statistic.
Well, and the Jay Mueller on Twitch says, again, you can have 95% possession, but if you don't do anything with it, does it even matter? Those stats that Lucas just gave you tell you that they are doing something with it at home, and they get that much less possession on the road, and they're doing that much less with it on the road.
Yeah, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. And we see this from Nashville. Nashville has dominated games on the scoreline that they lost the possession battle with. They like to force possession without purpose, right? But that hasn't been the case. That's not the case when it lines up with less than half a goal per game versus over 2 goals per game at home. And it's the thing that sticks out to me about what Gary said is almost how he seems mystified by it. Because these numbers, they indicate kind of an approach.
Yes.
Not just being outplayed. That's significant of a drop-off to me indicates an approach which should kind of be across the board on the same page with coaching staff and players. I don't know that I buy that it's just this is just what's happening on the field. This isn't what we've planned for. That's kind of the most bizarre thing to me is how bewildered by it all he
With
seems.
you 100% there, Lucas. And for me, I think we give credit almost week in, week out for how forthright the answers seem in the pressers.
Always.
This one to me just seemed a bit coach speaky because for there to be that drastic of a difference on the stat sheet and on the results, it just shows you that like there's got to be something approach wise, and if there's not, how has it gone on this long? Like it's not like it just started against Toronto and Miami,
right?
So
the chance creation 1.9 goals per game at home, 0.9 expected goals per game on the road. So you're creating, on average, one less goal, one less
opportunity for
big opportunity than you are in Nissan Stadium.
And there's going to be a drop-off. You cited the statistic. What is it? 52% of home teams win week in and week out in MLS. There's going to be a drop-off, but that's significant of a drop-off, especially considering some of the lower-level competition this team is playing. Yeah, it's more than just you're being outplayed and you don't understand why. I think there's a significant mentality that maybe it's permeated more than the staff maybe initially wanted it to going into a Columbus or New England game. You understand that mentality going into those matchups, but you wonder if it just kind of hung around for a little too long going into a matchup against a Miami.
Well, and that's for everyone out there. Again, we don't want to sound like we're beating a dead horse here, but what you've got to remember is that the schedule gets harder.
Right.
Everything gets tougher as this season goes on for this club. Now, look, last year, this team played its best soccer in the last third of the season.
Right.
They turned it on. They went to the playoffs. They got better. And look, that was with adding a piece who never really did that much in Yonder Cadiz. So there is time for this team to figure this out. There's no big deal. But just on paper, just looking at the opponents who come in, the strength of schedule gets harder the further you get into this season.
To play devil's advocate on the road stats this season, 2 of the teams that you've played on the road are the defending MLS Cup champions and the current favorites to be the MLS Cup champions. When you don't have that many road games already this year, I think the fact that you've already gone to Columbus and you've already gone to New England is going to skew these numbers a little bit. Is that fair?
It's fair, but that Columbus team ain't great either, man.
Yeah,
I know they are who they are, but right now they're not that. You know what I mean?
Make the
And
same
the problem
argument,
is-
but flipped a little bit about Miami.
And the problem is all the results outside of those 2 are not playoff teams right now.
Correct.
Well,
Many
right,
of them near
right.
the bottom
I'm
of the
just
table.
saying, if you're
to
going
be
to
fair,
take
Columbus is traditionally a hard place. And look, I'll even go there. Red Bulls is traditionally a very hard place to go
absolutely
play.
is.
Sure.
So those are 3 pretty hard road trips. I think Columbus, you were just fine. Red Bulls, you got played off the pitch. New England, I thought, was a really good result. You went in there with a pretty limited roster. You rested some guys, and you did okay. You
and
know
even
what I mean?
Real Salt Lake, that early in the season.
That early in the season, that long of a trip.
The altitude, all
You're
those
right.
things. But the thing is, these results are just so much harder to defend when this road form continues to be the way that it is. The scoreless draw at Real Salt Lake gets harder to defend every time Nashville fails to grab a result on the road.
That's right.
Nashville in the first half kind of matched up with Miami's 3-4-2-1, and it was one of the first time, guys, that I think we quickly saw the shape isn't working tonight for Nashville SC. And specifically, I think, Davey, they were matched up man on man with a team that was playing virtually an identical system. The 3-4-2-1, call it a 3-5-2, which I think is probably closer to the truth for Nashville SC, even though traditionally you would call that a 3-4-2-1 as well. And I think you're going to see the 4-2-3-1 come back on Sunday against DC United. I think you've got to.
Well, I think it's all personnel dependent. If Alistair Johnson's healthy, yes, I think you're right.
Right.
I think Eric Miller will take a seat.
And you could say the same probably about Walker Zimmerman.
Sure.
If he's healthy, you're probably also back to
Yeah,
a 4-2-3-1.
probably so. That's fair. So I think if you can get one of those two guys, I think Johnson is more likely than Walker. But look, yeah, you said it right. They're matched up kind of formationally against them. I think Miami had the better of the ball. They outworked.
They deserved the win.
They deserved the win. I said it right after the game. Credit to Gary Neville. He had his guys ready to play. He's
Especially
taken
late.
a ton of grief, Gary Neville. He's taken a ton of grief. Look, for all the praise Toronto got from other media members after they drew Nashville a few weeks ago, or a week ago or so. I mean, I didn't see that same kind of response about Gary Neville and what Toronto or what Miami's doing, because they're equal on points over their last 5, and they're right there neck and neck with them for points on the table. So, I mean, if we're going to praise people, let's praise people, right?
You're right. What is Yonder Cadiz's role in this team moving forward?
We've talked a lot about him.
The crickets there actually might be the perfect answer.
Yeah, no, I think they are. Look, that was a panicky miss, right, by Cadiz. That wasn't just a bad touch or a mishit ball. It felt like pure panic in front of goal to not even put that on frame.
See, for me, it felt like a guy who knows the pressure is on.
Right, and it's the opposite of what you need in a
Correct.
DP number 9.
Correct.
Like
a DP
any
striker.
It's like a quarterback, like a closer in baseball. A striker is totally buoyed or sunk by confidence. And a lack of confidence in that moment is the difference between scoring and not scoring. And really, I think 3 points and 0 points.
It's the lack of confidence. It's the lack of seemingly knowing what to do in that moment of getting caught between heading it and bringing it down, and then whichever one you elect to do, you flub it wide.
It looks like a guy who expected to come here and be the guy, and all of a sudden things are not going according to the script that Yonder Cadiz had in his head.
Not all of a sudden.
When
it's
he got
almost
to
a
Nashville.
year old
Well,
at this
I know.
point.
But I
Outside
think-
of those first 2 games with a pair of goals, I think he is going to have to find a red-hot run of form here in the last couple months of the season or very soon to stake a claim for his spot on this team.
And I said it
don't know
last
if I
week.
see that
Chance.
happen.
I think he's playing for his next job.
Right, yeah.
Barring
is what
injury.
it is to
Well, we
me.
said we said it last week. It's a huge moment in his career.
It is,
It's a
absolutely.
huge moment for the trajectory of his career as a guy on loan from one of the biggest clubs in Portugal. And if he can't get it done here, he's not going to go back and get it done at Benfica.
Well, and he's not going back to Benfica even if he scores 5 goals in the next 5 games.
So it would
Just drive up his price to sell to someone else if Nashville doesn't take it.
And I think the guy has taken a lot of grief for things that, to me, I don't see on the field personally. But I tweeted it out the other day. That header from Sapong, which we haven't even talked about yet, by the
Strong
way,
Class.
Yeah.
straight up world class.
Yeah.
I mean, that glancing header from where he was, bar down.
We both said that the second the goal went
very
in.
impressive goal. I think as good of a finish as you will see in the league all season.
If you got that type of play and production that CJ Sapong has offered, and if Yonder Cadiz was the one providing that, it'd be obviously a totally different conversation. I think
To
it would
me,
be he has met or
I
exceeded
still just don't
expectations.
know that it would be enough on a DP salary.
For what, in terms of what Sapong has provided?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it'd obviously be a different conversation.
It would absolutely be a different conversation. I think we'd still be sitting here saying, don't you got to get a little bit more than 4 or 5 goals out of the guy?
Well, I don't think Ake Loba was the number 9 Nashville needed at the end of that game to hold up the ball in a counterattacking style. Nashville SC did not change its distribution methods effectively enough when they swapped out CJ Sapong for Ake Loba, because everything played in defeat to Ake Loba. He's just going to get shouldered off the ball by whoever the center back is and lose possession. And that's exactly what happened.
I'm going to go a place I don't know that we were planning on going here, but
Sure.
I don't think Matt LaGrassa can be the sub coming on the game chasing a goal in the 88th minute.
Neither
No
can
offense
Brian-
to Matt
I don't
LaGrassa.
think Brian Anunga can either.
Agreed completely.
This team doesn't have that second attack-minded, late run into the box central midfield player. And right now, your most creative central midfield player is playing a center back, center defensive mid hybrid role,
come into the game.
which I think is absolutely a reason why the chance creation for this team is starting to fall a little bit.
But we know this team's limitations in that respect.
We do. We talked about center midfield all year long.
But
So
have
we understand the need to
And
defend
before I go any
leads rather
further,
than chase goals.
no one has banged the drum for LaGrassa and Anunga as hard as we have. They've been great.
Right, because I was going to say,
but
haven't we
chasing
just,
a goal, they can't be the sub at 88th minute.
I was going to
can't
say,
be the guy
we
coming
just
on.
finished a show the last 2 weeks saying Brian Anunga is a revelation for this team and shouldn't be dropped.
I think he should start at the 6 in a lot of games.
Yeah.
But he can't be the guy coming on chasing a goal.
You know how many goals this team scored outside of set pieces over this road trip? 0. That's
They only
the
scored one goal, right?
That's the harsh reality. Add 2. Castellanos header against Toronto,
There you go.
and Sapong header against Miami on corners. 2 corners, perhaps your best chances ahead of a really good Castellanos header that probably is one you don't expect to score. A really good CJ Sapong header that you don't expect to score. You had a chance in each of those matches, Toronto and Miami, that were gimmies that you didn't get. So, you could make the argument that evens itself out.
It does. It feels
Hani
like
Mukhtar's header against Toronto and Yonder Cadiz, of course, on the doorstep against Miami.
it feels like it rains when it rains it pours.
Yeah, we've never had a show where we've been kind of positive and kind of negative. Like, it's either, wow, this team looks great right now and could win MLS Cup, which was a true statement, I think, when Taylor Washington made it, and could still be true if this team plays the way it
Pieces
does.
are there. That's what I'm saying.
Or the attacking
it's,
woes.
hey,
of what
they're
we're
not going to
talking
make the
about
playoffs.
here.
It's never like, oh, this team is in the middle of the road.
But look, it's just math. That's
I
not
know.
an us problem.
No, it's not.
Like, there's just points available and points not being taken. So,
Well, look, if this form at home were to continue through the end of the season, which it probably won't, and if this form on the road is continued through the end of the season, which it probably won't, you're looking at right at mid-table fringe playoff spot.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. I think you're looking at
no, you're on
you're
the
one
edge.
of the last spots.
I think you're right there. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
because you have a lot more road
You're
games left
battling
at
for
home.
that 1 or 2 last playoff spot in the East.
Yeah.
Which the expectations were higher than that going into the season. So that's why we're having this conversation in the manner we're having it, because the home form is great, but to an extent it doesn't matter as far as this club's standards based on year 1
Agreed.
if the road form continues the way it is.
And this is where we've said it 100 times. They're victims of their own success. They came in last year, they performed well, and they set a bar for themselves. And then coming in the season, it was, hey, look, your guys internally are talking about making the U.S. Open Cup out of those first 8 matches.
Yeah.
Your guys are the ones saying, we think we're good enough to go out and chase the cup. We set the standard pretty high right off the bat, saying, I think this team should host a home playoff game.
Yeah.
I still think the quality's there.
Yeah.
and it's still an attainable goal. at this point.
Absolutely.
Because you had a lot of other teams. Orlando has dropped points against bad teams. Columbus just lost to Atlanta at home, 3-2. Chicago Fire just beat New York Red Bulls. No one in the East is taking control of this 2nd through 7th in the Eastern Conference.
Big week for Gary Smith over these next few days to reset a little bit. DC United at home, and then moving on past that. It's a big week. Big week for Nashville.
Absolutely. Huge week. And, I think the thing that we've got to kind of just keep an eye on is, look, as this team kind of inches along the way, what we've been saying all year long, or for about a month and a half now, us on this show is, hey, this team's struggling against bad teams. The flip side of that is playing pretty good against good teams.
It's all to play for.
Yes, the strength of schedule gets harder, but those are the teams right now that Nashville's playing good against. So
This team's identity is yet to be decided.
exactly.
Comment on Twitch. Can I politely ask y'all to shut down the Nashville needs a new coach narrative? Who in the world is saying
I did
that?
see a few tweets.
Oh, Lord.
We are not saying that.
No. We are not saying.
I don't even want
lump
to
us into
discuss it to
that.
give that air because that's just a dumb statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not worth dignifying with the conversation. Gary Smith is completely secure in his role in Nashville SC right now. It's an interesting conversation, though. We will continue that over the course of the next week with DC United coming up on Sunday. Quickly, though, guys, the change I'm making, resting Leal again and putting in Loba. I think you probably see a like-for-like change there. I made the same prediction last week, and I was close. I was right on that part. Of course, Mukhtar was rotated out again. That's not going to happen against DC
think
United.
You see Loba start at the 9 and Leal and Hani start as the wrong side of him. I think you need Sapong on late.
I didn't see enough holding up the ball retention from Ake Loba against Miami to trust him as a number 9.
I don't think you're going to have to see him hold it up as much at the beginning of a game at home with the ball attacking. I think he's going to get an off-the-shoulder run the channel. So, again, this is the difference between home and away.
Coming up, our English champions, Davey Shepard and I, are coming off of a correct prediction last year. Not to toot our own horns, but just to toot our own horns real quick.
Pre-Lucas Panzica, that episode.
Pre-Lucas Panzica. Wow. That was the dark ages of
that. Just means I can't
show.
testify to say that you guys are right.
So we're going to do that. We're also going to give you a dark horse team in Europe. Guys, I'm allowing all leagues here. We're not going to go through and give predictions for every single league. And first, I don't want to do that. But a dark horse team in Europe, an English champion. Plus, I'm kind of sad about Lionel Messi to PSG. And it's not because I have any attachment to Barcelona, because I don't. And I'll explain my despair in Messi leaving for PSG. We'll do that. We'll finish up the show next on 104.5 The Zone.
Witness the passion that unites us all.
Touchdown, Tennessee. Wow.
The Vols play here.
104.5 The Zone.
Nashville Soccer Show, 104.5 The Zone. Bill Bowling, Davey Shepard, Lucas Panzica. We're about to make our Premier League title picks, and I'm shocked that I'm alone in the pick I'm about to make. I'm sitting over here talking trash about Ben Wright in our commercial break, who I'm sure Ben is hanging out in Periscope. Ben, love you. Saying like, oh, I saw Ben picked United. What? And then Davey goes, oh, yeah, I'm picking United. Then Lucas walks in here and is like, oh, yeah, you're not picking United? I am too. Like, what are y'all, what's going on? Manchester City is, their B team could finish in a Champions League place. What am I missing? Y'all tell me.
Lucas, I'll let you field it first.
I think Manchester United made, out of any Premier League team, the most key moves, the best moves as it pertains to their roster.
Which one?
Start with Rafael Varane, one of the 3 or 5 best center backs in the world. You saw what Harry Maguire can be with a much more competent center back partner in the Euros with England. Varane is such a massive upgrade over Victor Lindelof.
The weak link in their defense is Wan-Bissaka, who would be one of the better defenders on most of the teams in the Premier League.
And I think Jadon Sancho is going to be one of the most dynamic players in the Premier League this season.
I'm
and
not
I
convinced about that at all.
I adore that front three of Sancho, Rashford, Cavani as the 9.
Give me the last young Bundesliga playmaker that year one in the Premier League met expectations.
Christian Pulisic?
Havertz ended up playing really well.
Yeah, Havertz played well.
But he was the perfect example of what these guys
Pulisic lived
always
up
do.
to expectations.
Okay. That's fair.
Werner did not.
To be fair, Pulisic didn't have,
As
outside
high.
of America,
Correct. Yeah, right. That's
sky-high expectations to win the Golden Boot or whatever.
No, okay, so I like United as well to win the league. I think the Varane signing is huge. I think he's one of the better center backs in the world. I think that back line is really, really good now. Luke Shaw, for me, was the best left back in the league last year.
And arguably in the Euros.
And arguably in the Euros as well. I think he was great. Harry Maguire, I'm not huge on the guy, but I think he's a top 5 center back in the league. And I think he's going to be playing next to a top 5 center back in the world. So I think he'll be pretty good.
Harry Maguire? Or no, you're talking about Varane.
Maguire playing next to Varane. And then Wan-Bissaka on the other side. I think Paul Pogba is what Paul Pogba is. If they can go out there and sign a guy like Tukamene or even Declan Rice, I think that pushes this team over the top, and I think they win it in a runaway.
Yeah, someone
win it in a runaway.
Kind of unlock Paul Pogba as a defensive midfielder.
Now, I'll hedge my bets in
would put it
2
over the
ways.
top.
I'll hedge my bet in 2 ways. One, if Manchester City buys Kane, I think Manchester City will win the league. 2, if Manchester United sell Pogba, I don't think Manchester United will have enough to win the league.
For me, Fred and McTominay are playing too much for United to win the league.
Yeah, that's the best argument against
That
it.
is the best, and that's what I'm
who's
saying.
playing next to Paul
Because
Pogba.
If United have a brain, they'll spend the money on Declan Rice and
Because-
let Paul Pogba be as good as he was in the Euro next to Conte.
Yeah.
Because legitimately, Manchester City's B team, legitimately, their backups at every position, I think, are better than my Arsenal team.
I worry about
And
goals
better
from
than
center
Tottenham.
forward. I
And-
worry about goals from center forward.
See, but I think if you are as heavily linked as Harry Kane as they are for $100 million at this point, it's not going to be all or nothing. You lost Sergio Aguero. You lost his wages. They're going to get a center forward before this window
But you
is
can
over.
only
Going
go
to.
off what you have right now. What's right in
I
front
don't know
of
if
you right
can.
now.
I mean,
I
that's
I
part
just-
of
That's what
what
I'm
makes
doing.
City
I don't know
City.
who's out there. Dortmund is not selling Haaland this year.
Right.
Chelsea would have paid the amount of money that
Well,
Dortmund
so would
wanted.
Madrid possibly,
That's
or
what,
Barcelona.
right. That's what I'm saying. So they would have done it.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea were saying 150, and they weren't even close
Which
to
is
it.
Wild.
So I mean, that's why everybody I'm saying this. Oh well, they paid Haaland money for Lukaku. Well, no, if it was Haaland money, it would have been Haaland, but it's not. So it's not. So Haaland's not going anywhere. I don't know. I just don't. If it's not Kane and it's not Haaland, Lukaku's already going to Chelsea. I don't know who the guy is.
Yeah, who's that dominant force? Yeah.
You said Lewandowski, but
I don't put
Again-
anything past Pep Guardiola and past the budget that Manchester City has. That's the thing.
yeah, I don't. I'm not hating on Manchester City. I think they're going to push whoever all the way, all the way, all the way.
Plus, I mean, the worst case for them is that their second center forward is either De Bruyne as a false 9, which has been pretty good when they've done that,
Yeah.
or Sterling, and you have on the wings Foden and Grealish. Because Jack Grealish now shows again that Manchester City, PSG, about 5 teams are spending just exponentially more money than everyone else.
But on that note, on PSG, talk about a transfer window.
Oh, my gosh. Makes me sad, man.
I thought the Hakimi signing was the best signing of the window.
Gianluigi Donnarumma, free transfer, which breaks my heart.
Breaks your heart.
But country over club, what he did for Italy, I'll always have a special place for him.
Sure.
Gianluigi Donnarumma on a free. Lionel Messi on a free. Sergio Ramos on a free. Those three, not $1, not €1 in transfer fee money. Whole lot of euros in wage fees, but not one in transfer fee money. That might be the best transfer window I have ever seen from a single European club.
Talk about expectations. I mean,
it's Champions
honestly,
League
I
or
think
bust.
anything less than a quadruple is.
Absolutely.
There's a
they
chance
have
you
to
could
win every
play-
competition they're in.
There's a way that you could play Messi as a number 10 and still put Di Maria on the wing in that team too. Like everyone's just assuming it's a front three of Messi, Mbappe, Neymar.
I hope it is.
I could still see Messi plays as a center forward cam in a 4-3-3, and you have Di Maria, Mbappe, Neymar.
All right, let's hear your dark horse.
My dark horse team that I think is going to be the surprise winner of a big European league is Borussia Dortmund. Bayern Munich has lost a lot, and I don't think they've replaced it to the extent that other teams have. And if this is probably Erling Haaland's final year as a Borussia Dortmund player, Bayern Munich has had 4 preseason friendlies. They've lost 3, and they've drawn 1 against Ajax. Now, I'm not reading too much into preseason friendlies, but look at who they've lost over the past 2 seasons, and look at who they've replaced them with. I mean, they got Dayot Upamecano from Leipzig. That's a good move. But you're looking at a team that over the past 2 years have lost Thiago, Coutinho, Perisic, Alaba, Boateng, and Javi Martinez. Part of the backbone of what made them such a dominant team in Bundesliga and in the Champions League. I don't see them having the depth to be the team that they once were. And if they start flat at all, Dortmund is too good to not take advantage of that, pick up points, and make things really interesting at the end of the season.
Looking forward to a more priority role for Gio Reyna.
I agree. And Erling Haaland is, I think, right now, the second best player in the world behind Kylian Mbappe. Those are my top 2 right now. I think it is a youth movement. I would put Messi third, N'Golo Kante's in there. Honestly, Jorginho isn't far away from that top group, the way he played in the Euros and the way he played in the Champions League for Chelsea.
The way you underrate Harry Kane is probably the most astounding thing about you.
But what did he do in the Euros, though?
I mean, it's
He's
a
coming
tournament
off
where he's coming off a
tournament.
very injured season.
Right.
But that doesn't make the guy not the best forward in the world. He's
You
the
don't,
best
you don't think
forward in the
Mbappe
world.
and Haaland are the best forwards in the world?
I think Harry Kane is the best pure number 9 in the world, and I don't think it's particularly close.
I would take Haaland and
would take-
Lewandowski over Harry Kane.
I would too.
No, I don't think either of those guys link up the ball the same way that Harry Kane does. I think he does so much more working his way back.
That's true.
Really close.
He does. And
That's
to
where
be
he was
fair,
good in the Euros.
Kylian Mbappe is
Thank
not
you.
an out-and-out number 9.
He's
yet.
not, right. So I'm not lumping
So-
him in that conversation. Right.
Fair.
Okay, so my dark horse, I was misunderstanding this. I thought you were saying dark horse to win the Champions League.
Oh, no, I
Which
just
is
meant
where
like
I-
a team that
which
exceeds
is where I was saying
expectations.
Chelsea.
Okay.
Okay, so I won't say Chelsea because I don't think they're a dark horse to win
Right.
the English league. I think they are a dark horse to win the
But
Champions
just a
League.
team
again.
that's going to exceed expectations.
Exceed expectations, I got 2.
Okay.
One, I said this a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago now.
Oh,
I think Roma wins the Scudetto
Oh.
in their first time
I
there.
thought you were going to say Arsenal.
Oh,
I think Roma wins Serie A
Lucas is
in Jose's
pissed.
first year there. Take it or leave it. Here's my other one. I have Aston Villa finishing in a Europa spot,
Oh.
and I've got Arsenal finishing in a Europa spot.
Oh. Hey.
I think
Ben Wright has us 5th.
I think I've got you 5th. I think
Sporting
But not that bad.
the Ben White signing, I think,
He's
is
good.
tremendous. I think they've
Yes.
done a lot well. I think that's really going to help them. I think Aston Villa sold Jack Grealish and got better.
Arsenal's best move was Albert Sambi Lokanga. Best move.
Danny Ings, Leon Bailey. I think they've just made tremendous signings.
They're
Villa.
probably not done yet either.
I don't think they are. I think they're really good. man.
Emiliano Martinez was the best goalkeeper at Arsenal. They had to sell him, but
I mean,
got a
you
good
saw they
keeper.
played well with
Tyrone
Jack
Mings is
Grealish
great.
hurt last year. So I think
Yeah.
they're a good team. I think they're just a great mid-table team in the Premier League.
Lucas,
Leicester City.
I thought about going Leicester.
I
And
think
what's overachieving for them? Finally, the top 4?
I think it is. I think it is Champions League.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I think that's surpassing.
They won the
I thought
FA
about
Cup
going
last
They're
year.
right
That's
there in that
good.
conversation.
I like
and
that.
You know, they
But-
just won the Community Shield. I think my favorite signing in the Premier League this offseason, Patson Daka.
I was going to say.
22-year-old Bayer
thought about saying this
Leverkusen. Or,
exact
I'm
same
sorry,
thing.
not Leverkusen. Red Bull Salzburg.
Yeah.
Scored in bunches in Austria. They got him right around that 30 million mark. I think he's going to come in as a perfect fit. They don't really lose anybody. They add him. They bring back that core from last season. I think they're one of the best, most well-run clubs in Europe. I would not be shocked if Leicester makes the top 4.
I did not pick them because I genuinely think there is something to James Maddison to Arsenal.
I think so too.
Now that Arsenal is offloading Joe Willock to Newcastle.
But I'd give you an out on that if that's what happened.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
Arsenal either ends up with Martin Odegaard or James Maddison. I'm great with either. All right, I'm great with this show. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., wherever you listen to podcasts, Don Garber on a podcast special version of the Nashville Soccer Show. We'll play it again next week on the show as well. Looking forward to that. Sunday, NSC DC. We'll talk about it next week on the Nashville Soccer Show.
Titus and Tate, a podcast from two obsessed basketball lovers.
Do you think Milwaukee will attract free agents now?
I mean, not even free agents, but players that are championship level player, like not a Jeff Green in particular, but those Jay Crowder type players.
Yeah,
are
you're
gonna
not
say,
saying
I want to go. Not those players specifically, but they're going to say I want to go play with the best player.
Yeah,
I want to be a part of that. That's what happened with Michael.
More than just analysts and stats. Titus and Tate.